I started actually with sneakers, then it went into boots and everything, but there is a big following on vintage sneakers too, like all over the world. Any classic like then looks are always in style, you know, they never go out. I always was fascinated, even like living back in Ukraine, with American culture, American style, I guess, like classic style, like old Levi's and Western boots or like workwear. Still people want it, still people want to spend money on it, and like it still looks cool, you know, it's basically like timeless. I enjoy like finding old pieces and giving them like second chance, second life. And I like doing that. I like doing stuff with my hands. Also the thrill of doing it is, for me, is to find like really beat up pair and bring it back to life. So if I could, I guess I like see challenge in it and also like certain satisfaction. Just saving something that's already been made and like giving it another chance to, you know, be of service to someone, I think that's what like drives me, keeps me going.
Welcome to Refocus, I'm Tristan Nichols. As you can see, I'm in the studio. This is my world. This week, we're taking a look at the jobs that we do, people's lives across San Diego, doing jobs that they're very passionate about. Now, let's jump straight to it. We're going to go to a guy now in San Diego who builds castles made of sand.
So I had 4 kids, and we'd go down to the beach and build sandcastles on the weekends. And before long, we were building pretty nice sandcastles. Before I started building sandcastles, I was working in construction. I was doing plastering, hod carrying, and some lathing. And when the industry got slow, I started doing sandcastles on the side, and soon we're making enough money to just build sandcastles. We're going to add Cinderella and Prince Charming to our castle. Somebody wants to propose out here. I've done marriage proposals early in the morning where I come out here in the dark, use lights, build my castle. Now I got to do this water thing if it's 50 degrees out or if it's, you know, whatever. What keeps my castle together is water. So it's water tension between the sand. I can't really let it dry out. So twice a day at least, I wet it down. You're not always building. It takes a lot of time to do maintenance on it by keeping it together. I'll get on with building. Usually when I get here, I actually spend about an hour wetting whatever I have. It seems like a perfect day. I prefer landscapes and castles to most things. This is where my next castle is going. Well, we're going to add a couple towers to this castle that's already existing. Compact the tower, tamp it down a little bit, get the air out of the sand, and then I'm going to hand stack some sand and make a roof, an arch, and then start sculpting some windows and doors and stairs. So I pretty much learned most of this by building with my kids and experimenting. First we used to do little arches, and then we did bigger arches, and as time went on we got better and better at it, so we could do bigger and bigger arches. And the way I get most of my business is through business cards. Somebody will grab my business card, email me ahead of time, tell me what day and what they want written on it, any special things like which direction they want it facing, and give me a time, and I come out about 5-6 hours before the proposal, build them a sandcastle, and then they come out and propose. Yeah, proposals are fun. Just to watch people at one of their happiest moments of their life, you know. Well, I do weddings, and like a wedding will be $500 to $800. I give sandcastle lessons to children, and I do parties. Birthday parties where the parents come out and bring their pizza and their cake, and I give the entertainment for 2 or 3 hours building sandcastles with the kids. Yeah, I did one for Target, and I did one for Pastry Shoes. And I did a promotional for Ocean Potion, which is a sunscreen product, where I gave sandcastle lessons while they handed out sunscreen to all the people. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, just like that. And that's how you make stairs. And you can give it a try and then let somebody else give it a try. So you pile up the cookie dough sand in a slope. You hold it, how? Flat like a table. Hold it like that. And then use your other hand too. Push down on it. There you go. I built a sandcastle for somebody for a wedding up in the dunes. And on their sandcastle, for their wedding, they had a Green Bay Packers helmet and a Kentucky Cornhuskers man and a Kentucky black shirt. They wanted the Kentucky black shirts on there. So for a wedding castle, I think that's pretty unique. Like, this is a great beach for sand. Fine, clean sand. The coarse sand the water doesn't hold it together as well. The fine sand, the water tension is what holds it together. Some places in Pacific Beach get coarse. I go to this Hotel del Coronado webcam and look at my castle in the morning, so I see if it's here or not. But I've seen people actually, while I'm sitting here, come up and wreck it. I've had 3 boys run up from the sidewalk, tackle it, and run away. There's sometimes when I'll be leaving and before I get to my truck, I have it wrecked. Further up the beach, I had a kid just run in and dive into it. So you get people like that. Parked my truck, saw my castle here, started walking down, and a woman and her 5-year-old kid destroyed my castle from the time I left my truck and walked down here. You never know why. I mean, well, the kid doesn't know any better. He's like 5, and I say, "Did you guys wreck my castle?" And he's like, "Yes." And she just turns away and won't talk to me. She's walking away. She wouldn't talk to me or say she was sorry or anything. Thank you very much. So there's people like that, you know. What are you gonna do?
It takes a special breed of person to be a beekeeper. I think that it kind of gets passed down from generation to generation, kind of like farming, I guess you would say.
When I first went in my hive, my dad brought it over to the house for me to go through. And I was real scared then, but as I got older, I started working with my grandpa, just lighting up the smokers and smoking the bees.
Scotty's just starting up, so he's trying to make a lot more honey crop like my father-in-law did, but any of the melons, onion seed, all those need bees to have on there.
Dad had these agreements with some of the farmers. Can I make this shed on your property? What we're trying to do is just sell our raw product direct with the farmers markets.
He wants to go back to the old days and make a good raw alfalfa honey product. If we want to make a honey crop, it's best to find a good spot and leave them next to some alfalfa that's being cut. Because once they go to seed, then the bloom dries out and they don't make as much honey. But if they keep cutting it, it just keeps blooming, and then they cut it, then it blooms, then they cut it, and it blooms, and then that's where you make your honey crop in.
In the summertime, the alfalfa, when it hits about 100 degrees, it starts producing a lot of nectar, so the bees start what we call the honey flow. And in the wintertime, they go a little bit dormant.
It hasn't been processed. It's straight from the hives. All we do is extract it, and we filter it through like 400 and 200 micron filters, and it just takes out all the cut wax and whatnot, all the enzymes and pollen and all the healthy products are still there. Whereas sometimes when the honey goes to the processor, they cook it, whip it, pasteurize it, it kills a lot of the enzymes. It's not as healthy.
So I would go along with my dad for rides on the weekends. I think I was 11 or 12 when he taught me to drive stick shift, and my job was to take the frames of honeycomb out of the boxes and put them into the spinner. It's hard work, it's messy work, you get stung, it's sticky. You get wax on you, you know. The smell of honeycomb, which is in one of my products, I love it because it has memories.
Okay, we're making all natural lip balm. So I'm starting with my sweet almond oil. This is foundation. When you're creating a product, you don't realize, okay, there's marketing, there's the labeling, there's the packaging, there's so many things involved. I'm pouring the shea butter, the sweet almond oil, the vitamin E, and honey, and coconut oil. But when I smell that honeycomb, it just reminds me of my dad.
So here's some brood. There's the queen right there. See the queen? See that bigger bee? Where?
Right
A
here.
queen takes 16 days to hatch out. Kind of looks like a baseball peanut. The colony collapse isn't affecting us because we don't really have a nosema, which is a fungal spore that causes dysentery in the bees. It's a combination of pesticides from the farmers, pesticides that people put in their bees. They're still using techniques that are 20 years old. Migratory beekeeping, they're moving bees across the country to go to the almonds because the value is so high for them for pollination. And then they just keep pollinating field after field after field. They never give them a rest. The bees have to go through winter kind of like a bear. You'll burn them out.
What do you want to do? I mean, do you want to pollinate crops and make a lot of money, or do you want to have some simpler life and make a high-end product?
The one thing I can say about Hopeville, the support from the community is so awesome here. Everyone knows your business, but you know, that just comes with the territory.
A luthier is hopefully a creative artist. That's number one. You know, I'm not just cranking out instrument after instrument. Because I've been a musician so long, allows me to delve into the depths of sound just because of my experience, you know, my own playing experience. For me, I want to go inside the sound of that particular instrument that I'm working on and really bring it out, you know. That's my job. And you know, I love doing that. It's thrilling when you get an instrument that you've just made and you string it up for the first time. You know, it's almost like having a baby or something. I mean, it's a very powerful experience. When I play music, I become a child again. Everything becomes really exquisite. My dad sang, my mother sang and played piano, and my grandmother sang and played piano. We couldn't escape it. It just connects me to the universe, and it always has, even as a child. You don't have to be a musician, but for me, it would be incomplete. Because understanding how a string vibrates, how this process really goes through the instrument and creates sound is a very complicated process. And so I think that interconnectedness is really, really important, that you have that and allow it to come forth. It's not just about weights and measurements and densities and thicknesses. It's about what that piece of wood needs in order to be realized, to fully come alive and be at one with itself and whoever's playing it, you know. So when you finally string it up, You know, you don't have a clunker, you got something that's really wonderful and has a voice, has a life. Making them sing. And that's really a powerful process.
Sí, está tremendo, está.
What I do for a living is I'm sharing experiences in a very atypical place with a very atypical mix of people. And those experiences are based on my experience. There's something about it. There's something about all the character development and the creativity behind that, the candidness of it. And you know, people have referred to it, they call it therapy for the poor, because the idea is just like you're there and you just like, you scream and scream and scream and scream, you know, you're shouting things at these wrestlers. And that's the whole idea. They shout back at you.
Get in there, brother! Come on, man!
And of course it's all play, but that's the idea. It's like you're getting all this like built up tension out. And I think Mexican wrestling is much more humorous than American wrestling. And Mexico in general and Mexican culture, and it's able to laugh at itself much more than American humor does. It really does make you feel like a 5-year-old again. You see them going to this place where they haven't been in a long time, and it makes me think, I think we might, as Americans, take ourselves too seriously, and we're worried about maybe the wrong things instead of actually enjoying life as it's happening right now. And I think that that's a really great experience that people can have. They're 5-year-olds again, you know? 5-year-olds with big cups of beer. I moved out here with a couple friends. I'm from Ohio, and one of the first things on my list to do, aside from like beaches, was to come across the border. It's very surreal, the fact that here we live in a region where just crossing that line is when the official switch happens. Living along a border, you live in this sort of blurred line area between English and Spanish, or between American culture and Mexican culture, and that just fascinated me. I think Tijuana can be a very intimidating city, and I think once I got beyond that, I was very happy to know this and call this home. Everyone was saying how dangerous it was and how horrible it is. Friends wouldn't come because I think they had heard such terrible things and they just didn't want to deal with it. This ridiculous, out of control, you know, sort of dogma on how dangerous a place Mexico is. Surreal to me that how humans can draw a line in the earth and say, this is mine and that is yours. But everyone who speaks this kind of language stays on this side, and everyone who speaks that kind of language, or everyone who prays to this God stays on this side, and everyone who prays to that God stays on that side. It's just, it's surreal. And then when you go to the border fence here and you watch squirrels and rabbits running back and forth, and that's when you realize, you know, like what this really is. It's nothing. I wanted to change that for people who are willing to come with an open mind, willing to see something different than what they had heard or what they have come to believe about this place. People are like, what does turista libre mean? And it's free tourist is how it would be in English. And people are like, oh, but it's not free. But you know, there's two words for free in Spanish. One is gratis, and that is, you know, something is free, I didn't pay for it. And then libre has to do more with freedom. So the idea behind the name Turista Libre is that you are free from the conventional sort of, you know, restraints of being a tourist.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes, ¿qué tal? ¿Tienen luchadores, los de plástico, los chiquitos?
To be a tourist, you're not really having an authentic experience. I think there's a difference between being a tourist and a traveler. You know, travelers are the kind of people that are really wanting to see how people live in the world, whereas a tourist wants the most comfortable experience possible, you know? A tourist stays at a resort, you know, a traveler stays at a hostel. I think that's what I kind of want people to have, something that's on par with what I experienced the first few times that I started coming here. Taking it all in, you know? I think it's an authentic experience. They're interacting with locals. They're in a place that they would probably never go on their own. And they're meeting other Americans that are like-minded and here to do the same thing. At the end of that trip, these people have all meshed together and they had this really awesome experience together that'll always be theirs. And it all happened just because me putting something out on the internet to say like, hey, this is happening, we're taking people here, do you want to come? You should come. And people come. It feels good. It's like, this is working. I'm not changing people's minds. I'm giving them the opportunity for them to change their own minds, and it's working. I think anybody who comes here with open eyes can see that it's not all that ugly, you know? It just changes your idea about what ugly is. I don't think anywhere else in the world can compare to what I've lived here, teeter-tottering between two worlds on a constant basis.
So that's going to do it for another episode of Refocus. This week we've had 5 stories by James Gregg, Peggy Peaty and David Brooks, all along the themes of the jobs we do. Now feel free to follow us on Twitter or Facebook, but looking at it, I'm in the newsroom, I better get back to work.